Hey everyone, Larry Walsh here at Chellenomics. This is a critical week for the war in Ukraine. The Russians are compelling referendums in the territories that they occupy or partially occupy in the south and in the Donbass regions. The point of the referendums is to annex these territories into the Russian Federation, making them Russian territory, Russian soil. And Putin has said that attacks on Russian soil will be met with dire consequences in response. Well, there have been attacks on Russian territory. The Ukrainians have successfully attacked Crimea, which the Russians annexed in 2014, and the Russians do consider that their soil. The Ukrainians have also struck Belgorod, a logistics center, as well as other depots inside Russia proper, trying to disrupt supply lines coming into the front lines. And the Ukrainians have been pushing hard, particularly in their northeast, and around Kharkiv. And if you've noticed in the news, they've taken back a substantial amount of territory from the Russians, and they continue to try to push into Kherson in the south towards Crimea, trying to retake that critical region. Well, the reason why I bring this up is because of the impact this is going to have on the global economy. Um, I was speaking with my friend in Ukraine, Oleg Melnik, this morning, and he just posted a piece a couple of days ago about his forecast for the IT economy in Ukraine and saying it's going to contract about 65%, which is substantial because Ukraine had a growing and vibrant IT sector prior to the war. But it's the collateral impact it's going to have on this. The Europeans are almost assuredly going to go into recession, particularly this winter, because the energy crunch, the lack of gas and oil coming out of Russia towards Europe, is going to be crippling, and it's going to drive up energy prices even higher. But there's also a food supply disruption. Ukraine is the fifth largest producer of grain in the world, and where does their grain go to? To European markets, but also the Mediterranean Rim. And it's the Mediterranean Rim where we have to worry about because it's North Africa and the Middle East that gets a lot of their foodstuffs out of Ukraine. And the last time we saw a big disruption in those food supplies was in 2011, and the result was the Arab Spring. So this is going to continue to compound, and this is also coming on the heels of new forecasts that a recession will happen. So Stephen Hank, an economist at Johns Hopkins University, last week said it's an 80% chance the United States will fall into a recession sometime in 2023, if it hasn't already. And a new survey by CNBC says 52% of economists and financial fund managers believe that there will be a recession as well. And again, I'll remind you is that even though there's obviously pinches happening in economic activity, the 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 official board that declares recessions hasn't done so yet, even though we've gone through two consecutive quarters, the first and second quarters in the U.S. of negative economic growth. So there's a lot that's going to go on, but I think that we really should be keeping an eye on what's happening in Ukraine this week because it will move quickly. The Russians will conclude their vote tomorrow, Tuesday, September 27th. They will then go into debate in the Duma in Moscow, with it's their legislative body, which will debate the annexation. You could probably see a declaration sometime as early as this weekend or even next week. And at that point, then the game changes again. So again, definitely stuff to keep an eye on. But and again, we here at Chellenomics, my colleagues and I, we continue to monitor all these situations because we do see this having a collateral impact on the channel. Whatever happens in the macroeconomy will impact our microeconomy. So again, keep an eye on this and check out the resources we have for you to help understand and weather these dynamic conditions. All right, until next time, Larry Walsh here.